Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of FFB from the 50. I'm your host Dan Amsler, and on this episode we're going to do something a little bit different. So daily fantasy football is really taking over, and I play daily for free out on Yahoo. So tonight we're going to talk a little bit about daily. We're going to talk about value. I've told you guys before, I'm sure you've heard me say it, I'm a loan officer, I work in the mortgage industry, work for New Millennium Mortgage. I'm a man that's always looking for value, correct? All right, so let's take a look here. One of the keys to winning at daily is recognizing value when you see it. So for my league, we're given a budget of $200. Now, it might be different on FanDuel, might be different on DraftKings. Go out to whatever format you want to use. That's fine. They're all going to have their little variances, but I want to make sure we're always talking apples to apples. The same principles apply no matter what you're using, all right? So one of the things I like is playing in this free league. I can actually win money. I have won money. There are times that I will actually put down a bet, like a $10 entry. I've done quite well. Dave, who's been with me on the Fantasy Fireside Chats, he has done very well. Let's put it this way. We've both made enough money where we had to let our accountants know. That's a good problem to have. So when we talk about this, I want you to understand that we come from a background of winning. So let's talk. I'm going to go over my team this week, and I'm going to tell you kind of my thoughts, what I'm thinking, why I'm doing what I'm doing. And one of the first things that I always look for is injuries. Who's in, who's out, who's the next man up? Because typically you can get some really good value going out and grabbing replacement players. So one of my running backs, just for example, is Tyler Algier. Okay, so on a $200 budget, you have to make every dollar count. Tyler Algier is going to be RB1 this week for Atlanta against Tampa Bay. He averaged 8 yards per carry. He got some work out of the backfield as a receiver. He got that one catch for 20 yards. Tampa Bay is a tough matchup, and I understand that. But when I look at him, here's a guy that I can pick up for $12. Now, if you can start saving money on these positions, that means you can use those elsewhere. So in Yahoo, you start one quarterback, two running backs, three wide receivers, a tight end, a flex, which could be a running back, wide receiver, or tight end, as well as a defense. So I'm looking for those spots where I can get a sub-$20 player that I have the highest probability of getting some decent point output on. So I started there with Tyler Algier. And then typically one of the other spots that I go through is tight end and defense. And I know that sounds crazy, but I like to work backwards. I like to be able to fill in those cheaper players. I like to save money. So going out to the tight end, I've got, here's the range, just to kind of put this in perspective. The number one price tight end this week for me, now keep in mind Thursday games and Monday night games don't count. So with Yahoo, with this free league, this free roll that they do, it's only the Sunday slate. So the number one tight end as far as cost is Dallas Goedert in Philadelphia's matchup against Arizona this week at $22. Next one up is TJ Hawkinson for $21. Now, I'm telling you right now, I will probably watch T.J. Hawkinson if Amon-Ra St. Brown, DJ Chark, and DeAndre Swift are out again. But I also recognize they're going against New England. Bill Belichick is going to have plenty of game tape to watch to see what they did last week and why he was so effective. I'm sure they're going to scheme for him. I got George Kittle at $20, Zach Ertz 19, David Njoku at 16, Taysom Hill 16, Gerald Everett 15, Tyler Conklin 15, Kyler Pitts 15. And then here's the one that I chose. I've got Tyler Higbee. $15. The Rams are playing against Dallas this coming up week. I don't know if you guys noticed, the target share was crazy. So Higbee got 14 targets last week against the 49ers, caught 10 of those for 73 yards. Now, this is only half-point PPR, but for $15, I'll take that kind of production. Then what I typically do, like I said, is I'll go out and I'll try to pick my defense. And I do not like spending a lot of money on defense. So this week, I actually picked the New Orleans Saints. $12 going against Seattle. I know Seattle just put up a huge amount of points on Detroit, but so is everybody else. I like the Saints defense. For $12, I'll take that. That's value. So now I can go back, and I can start looking at these other positions. Now, I'm a huge proponent of getting the dual threat quarterbacks and the running backs that catch the ball in the backfield. But for me, the value at quarterback this week just wasn't there. So Josh Allen's $40, Jalen Hurts $38, Herbert's $34, Kyler Murray's $33, Jared Goff, who's performed really well this year so far, $29, Kirk Cousins $28. But folks, there was Tom Brady sitting there going against Atlanta's defense for $28. So that's where I went. There were some other options out there, but for me that was a no-brainer. I already told you that Tyler Algier was my running back that I selected first. He's next man up there in Atlanta, so I thought that was a value pick at $12. The next running back I did spend a little bit more money on. I spent $28. It's James Robinson, but I absolutely love the matchup against Houston this week. So to me, James Robinson was a no-brainer. I wanted to have him in. Now, because I was able to bargain shop for my RB1, my tight end, and my defense, and I went with Tom Brady at only $28 at the quarterback position, now I'm able to actually splurge on my wide receivers. So I went for Stephon Diggs, Tyreek Hill, and Christian Kirk. I'm very excited to have all three of those. Diggs was $34, Tyreek Hill was $29, Christian Kirk was $24. You could not argue that any of those guys are a value, but to me that's irrelevant. I think Teddy Bridgewater played well enough that Tyreek Hill is still very relevant. Stephon Diggs is Stephon Diggs. He's been doing amazing things. He's averaging 20 points per week in this half-point PPR setting. So I had a little bit of money to spend. After filling all those positions, I had $18 to still spend on my flex. So going to the flex spot, I just want to talk about who's available for $18 or less. I've got Devin Singletary, not a huge fan. Thielen against Chicago, not a huge fan. I think that game is going to be over with by halftime. I was a little intrigued by Corey Davis just because him and Zach Wilson seem to have good chemistry that carried over from last year. Jets are going against Miami, so you could argue that they're going to have to put up some points. So that was my first one that was intriguing. But Corey Davis's teammate, Breece Hall, he was also $18, and if I had to do the tiebreaker, it's going to go to the running back. You know, Breece Hall, we talked about this in our most recent episode of FFB from the 50, seems to have taken over RB1 duties from Michael Carter for the Jets. He saw almost twice as many carries, did see over twice as many targets, got the goal line work. So when I'm looking at this game, this is a game where you can say that the Jets are going to have to pass in order to keep up with Miami, even with Teddy Bridgewater as the quarterback. Breece Hall is that running back that all season long so far has been catching those passes out of the backfield. So if you have a running back that doesn't have to leave the field, I'm going to give those guys the edge every time. Because if you get into a 3rd and 1, they might run the ball. You get on the goal line, he's going to get the goal line work too. He's going to catch those balls, those quick dump-offs. Miami's defense has been pretty stout. They're going to be harassing Zach Wilson all game long. Breece Hall at $18, an absolute steal. That's my lineup. So for $200, I got Tom Brady as my quarterback, Tyler Algier, James Robinson as my running backs, Stephon Diggs, Tyreek Hill, Christian Kirk as my wide receivers, Tyler Higbee as my tight end, Breece Hall as my flex, Saints defense. Hey folks, I'm ready to roll with that. That sounds like a pretty good daily roster this week to me. I hope I was able to help you out. First thing I want to make sure I remind you guys, always go out and look for value. If you have a player who is out, look who the next man up is going to be. That's where I typically start. All right, folks, until next time, we'll see ya.